Before this video starts, I just want to thank today's sponsor of the video, which is Squarespace. The solution to create your own website, I'll speak about it later in the video. Okay, it's arrived. This is creatine monohydrate.
Pediatricians do not recommend teenagers use the muscle building supplement creatine.
Products some may be using to build muscle. They say these athletes should avoid creatine.
The American College of Sports Medicine recommends people 18 or younger not use creatine.
Creatine has had a lot of bad press. Many people saying that it's unsafe to use and should be avoided at all costs. I also get tons of people saying that their parents won't let them take creatine because they think it's dangerous. I was actually in the same position as you were. My mum never wanted me to take creatine. In fact, follow me. Mum, what was your opinion when I first started taking creatine?
I think it's a bad idea.
Why?
I think it's bad for you.
This is exactly what I mean. Hopefully we can change your parents' mind in this video. And I also want to find out, how does creatine actually work? And is it even effective for helping to build muscle? Okay, so firstly, and definitely the most asked question in general, does creatine work for building muscle? And the short answer is yes, it does. But the long answer, in fact, let me explain using the pen and paper method. Let me show you. Okay, so creatine. What does it actually do? Well, let's pretend that this is you, an individual who performs high intensity activities such as lifting weights. When lifting these weights, your muscles require energy. Now, the official name for this energy is called ATP. You don't need to know much about the name, but just remember, this is the energy source which helps your muscles do the certain amount of reps on a weight. So, as an example, let's say you were doing bicep curls. To do these reps, your muscles require ATP energy, and your body only produces so much of it naturally. As you do the lift, the muscle uses up the energy, and eventually you run out, and that's when you've gone to failure and you can't do any more reps. This is where creatine comes in. If you start to consume the supplement creatine, your body then turns it into something called phosphocreatine. Now, this is so important because phosphocreatine can actually produce ATP, i.e. it can produce more energy to the muscles. So before creatine supplementation, you only have a certain amount of energy for the muscles. However, compared to after creatine intake, due to the additional source of phosphocreatine which can produce ATP, you have more energy for the muscles. So as an example, going back to the bicep curl again, as you have more ATP in the muscles, it takes longer to run out, ultimately longer until you hit failure. Basically meaning in total you can do more reps. Okay, that has taken a lot of work, but I hope that can somewhat explain the science behind creatine for you. But how do we actually know that more reps equals more muscle mass, and how do we know that this stuff that the science is telling us actually comes into practice? Now, what I mean by this is actually conducting studies to test the validity, seeing how people in real life actually respond to creatine. But lucky for us, creatine is the most researched sports supplement ever, so there are absolutely tons of studies out there which back up the fact that creatine is good for building muscle. In one 8-week study where 27 healthy men took creatine and 27 other healthy men took a placebo drug, the individuals who were on creatine increased levels of muscle mass much more drastically than those who were on the placebo. Now I just want to interrupt quickly to talk about today's sponsors. So I just want to interrupt this video quickly to thank today's sponsor of the video, which is Squarespace. Squarespace is an online platform where you can build your own website, your own online store, your own blog, etc. And being completely honest here, I've always wanted to build my own website, but never known where to start. Squarespace makes it easy. In fact, for the last only 15 minutes, I created this home screen for my website. It was extremely easy because after a few clicks, I was able to pick from one of their professional templates as a starting point for my website. Now I'm going to be working with Squarespace over the next couple of months, and I thought the sickest thing is if you guys decide what you want me to create for my website, leave it in the comments down below and I will pick the most liked one. Obviously within reason. Anyway, yeah, if you do want to build your own website, now is the perfect time. I created this in 15 minutes. Imagine you just spending a couple days on it. Imagine the results you could get from that. So if you want to head to squarespace.com/JoeFazer and you can start a completely free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, just use my code JoeFazer at checkout and it'll save you 10% off your order. Thank you Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Let's go on with the rest of the video. another study backing up creatine. Now this was something called a meta-analysis study. This means a study of many different studies, bringing in all the findings from those studies and then creating one final result. This was the effects of creatine supplementation and resistance training on muscle strength and weightlifting performance. The study found that the average increase in muscle strength following creatine supplementation was 8% greater than the average increase in muscle strength following the placebo. So basically a massive 8% more gains from just taking creatine. Now, one thing I want to say is the two pieces of research that I showed in this video, they're only two of tons of pieces of research backing up the fact that creatine helps build muscle and strength. I want to be honest, I was shocked with how many different studies there were. Okay, so we've looked at the science which shows how creatine helps build muscle. We've seen studies which actually back it up when it comes to the real world of it. And I also spoke to some of my mates who take the supplement themselves, and like 95% of them said that they noticed creatine helped them in a positive way when it came to the gym. And while I never claim in the slightest that I'm like an expert on any of this, not at all, but from the research I've done and the people I've spoken to and everything, I've come to the pretty clear conclusion that creatine does work for building muscle. There's just too much research and too much evidence out there supporting it. It's hard to say that it just doesn't work and it's not effective, because it is. But how safe is creatine? Okay, so we've established that creatine does work, but then that brings out the question of, well, is it safe?
Nutritionists are really worried about a product some may be using to build muscle. They say these athletes should avoid creatine.
And when studies have isolated creatine by itself, they have shown time and time again that it's safe over long term.
Now, if I'm being completely honest with creatine, I always hear different stuff about the safety of it. Some people say it's completely fine. Some people say it's only fine if you take the right amount. Some people say it's extremely bad for you. I didn't know who to trust. I also had to look into this one a lot more. Unlike how effective creatine was, which before researching I kind of already knew that it was, when it came to the safety aspect I just wasn't sure. Here's what I found out. There's been a couple of days of me looking over this stuff, and I conclude that the short answer is creatine is safe. Let me explain. Firstly, the International Society of Sports Nutrition recently found that there was no scientific evidence that short or long-term use of creatine monohydrate causes any harmful effects on healthy individuals. However, any potential long-term side effects, which are, let me say, unlikely, we just don't know yet because it's not been out for long enough. It's also key to note that leading researchers who have studied creatine for several decades also concluded that it is one of the safest supplements on the market. Some people also argue that creatine is bad for your liver or kidney. Now, let me just say, if you do have a history of liver or kidney issues, creatine should be approached with caution, definitely. However, to date, no study of creatine use in healthy individuals has provided evidence of harm in these organs. One of the longest studies to date, which lasted up to 4 years, similarly concluded that creatine has no negative side effects. You see, what I'm trying to conclude at is creatine's safe, but you need to take the recommended amount. Don't get overconfident and start taking loads more because you want to see faster results, which more people do than you think. That's when it could potentially become a little bad for you. I've just started taking the supplement actually, which you will see a 30-day results from soon from me, but I take the recommended amount of 5 grams a day and I've noticed no side effects whatsoever. I hope this video could help a little with making a judgment on whether you want to take creatine. My personal recommendation is do take it, but keep to the recommended amount and you should be good.
Yo, what's up guys, hope you're having a great day. As you can see, not that many people who watch the videos are actually subscribed to the channel. I'd really appreciate it if you could just hit the subscribe button. Yeah, cheers guys.